Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Midnight Rules Relief Act of 2016 is yet another unfounded and reckless attempt to prevent the implementation of critical laws by the Republican majority. H.R. 5982 would amend the Congressional Review Act to enable Congress to bundle rules finalized during the final year of a president's term into a single vote on a joint resolution of disapproval. Alarmingly, once these rules have been invalidated through this process, the agency may not adopt a subsequent similar rule absent express authorization from Congress. According to my Republican colleagues, the Obama administration's regulatory agenda has eroded job growth and economic prosperity. Far from it, however, under President Obama's leadership, we've seen the longest consecutive streak of private job creation, the fastest growing middle-class income ever, and more high-quality and affordable health care for working Americans. Recently, the Census Bureau released new data indicating that in 2015, the median household income grew at the fastest rate on record, while the poverty rate fell at a faster rate than at any point since 1968. New data from the American Community Survey likewise indicates that the number of uninsured Americans is declining in nearly every state. These metrics reflect a strong record of progress as federal agencies implement laws like the Dodd-Frank Act and the Affordable Care Act. If anything, Mr. Chairman, we need new rules and better enforcement of existing law to ensure corporate accountability. In fact, it's only been months since the shocking revelations of Wells Fargo's years of illegal banking practices, since those practices have come to light. This sweeping display of corporate deception and hubris smacks of the very culture and lack of internal controls that gave rise to the mortgage crisis, collapsing the economy and employment. Indeed, as U.S. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew has cautioned, this scandal ought to be a moment where people stop and remember how dangerous the system is when we have the proper protections in place. While the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has issued its largest civil penalty ever, $100 million, in response to the Wells Fargo scandal, this was a drop in the bucket compared to the bank's $20 billion in profits last year, or its chief executive's $200 million stock compensation deal. What's more, not only did the bank deceive its own customers, Wells Fargo buried the scandal through forced arbitration clauses that shielded itself from liability and public accountability. This is simply unacceptable and drives home the point that there is still much work to be done to ensure fairness and accountability in the financial system, regardless of how many days may be left in a president's term. In closing, I urge my colleagues to oppose this legislation, and I yield the balance of my time.